Hey everyone, I'm here today to take a look at the new Ocean Protector Mosasaurus. Now I'm not going to do the whole review in the water because these really are not designed to be put in water, even though I have for the sake of taking a few photos. They very quickly fill up with water through the mouth and the gaps where the articulation points are, and then it can be quite difficult to get all the water out of there. There's still a bit sloshing around in there and it hasn't dripped out yet, so I'm going to have to kind of leave it for ages for that water to drip out. It's a shame that Mattel don't design these to be played with in water. If they kind of somehow made it so water wouldn't leak in through the articulation points, because it does float initially when you put it in water for a few seconds before it fills up. But I wouldn't recommend putting these in water, because when the water gets inside there it could go a bit funny, maybe damage the plastic or something over time. But if you already have the original Mosasaurus release, you for the most part know what you're getting with this. It's got the same articulation in the mouth and in the flippers here, so if you want to you can kind of have him standing on tippy toes and they move around like that as well all the way around. And the flippers, you need to plug them in when you get it, but the flippers will only plug into the holes they're supposed to go into because they're designed in a way where there's kind of a key shape on each one, so you can't accidentally put the flippers in the wrong holes. So it's easy to assemble. But the main difference with this release is that there is an articulation point in the tail here. Whereas on the original it was just one solid piece, the tail and the body. On this the tail will swivel from side to side, which is nice because really that was the only articulation point that was missing in that first release. The one thing I will say is that in photos I saw of this online, I thought there were going to be 2 points of articulation, the one here and one there, because there's a cut where the tail is 2 separate pieces of plastic here, and it kind of looks like that would be articulated. But it's actually just 2 pieces glued together, and I don't know why they did that, because on the original Mosasaurus the tail was all one piece, so I don't know why that wasn't all one piece with this one, why they've done it in 2 separate sections, because it doesn't really look good having that cut there in the plastic where it's 2 separate pieces that have been glued together. But I was kind of, I don't know, I wasn't that disappointed, but I was a bit surprised that that wasn't articulated. That is just a solid piece there, and the only articulation is actually here, where the tail will swivel from side to side. But other than the tail, it's pretty much exactly the same mould for the body and the jaw, though there is a different paint job. This new Mosasaurus is a lot kind of darker, deeper blue, more of a navy blue than the original, which is a lighter blue. And the original had yellow eyes, this new one has blue eyes. It's also a bit paler inside the mouth than the original, which was quite a pink colour. The mouth's quite loose on this one. The second you open it a little bit, it will just kind of flop open like that. So it will hold open for a little bit there, but then flops down, whereas the original I felt was tighter all the way down. But the paint job, I think I prefer the original. There's a bit more detail on the original, but it is nice that this isn't just exactly the same but with more articulation. Because it's a different colour, you can have both of these and treat them as 2 separate Mosasauruses. See, the original one had that light blue splattering of paint, which is quite a nice pattern down the side, whereas the new one doesn't have that. The new one has a lot of white dotting on it, which makes it look a bit like ocean spray from the water. I don't know if that's what it's actually supposed to be, or if it's just supposed to be a pattern in the skin, but it makes me think of the spray from the ocean going over the mosasaur. But it is the same very crocodile looking sculpt. It's hard to tell, but I think the flippers are a new sculpt as well. Which seems a bit pointless because they're almost identical, but they do look a little bit different to me. Does anyone else think that? I'm pretty sure the detailing is different on those flippers. They also seem to bend in a slightly different way. These flippers kind of bend downwards more, whereas these kind of bend upwards a bit more. So I think they have actually given them a new flipper design, which is nice that they went to that extra effort rather than just reusing them like they could have. There's the app codes on both of them. The plastic seems a bit harder on this new Mosasaurus, not quite as soft. Like that original Mosasaurus was really soft actually. Like I can really squeeze it in. Whereas this one, it's still soft plastic, but it's nowhere near as soft. Like, it's a lot harder to push it in than this one, which is really soft actually. I forgot how soft this one is. The tail on the new Mosasaurus goes straight out a bit more. It still curves upwards a little bit, but it pretty much goes straight out the back. Whereas on that original Mosasaurus, the tail bent upwards pretty drastically, which I always thought was kind of a weird way to sculpt it. I don't know why Mattel did that. It's good if you're holding it underwater for photos. You can kind of hold the tail to get the Mosasaurus upright as if he's bursting out of the water. But in general, I always found it kind of weird that the tail went up so much like that. I think it probably does look better coming straight out the back on the new one like that. So that's just my look at the new Ocean Protector Mosasaurus and a quick comparison with the original. I know I said not to put them in water, but I do think they look really cool in water for taking photos and that, but you probably shouldn't try this at home, and I'm going to have a nightmare now trying to dribble all the water out of them and get them dry. Look, this is how it fills with water. See all that pouring out, and there'll still be some in there as well if I shake it around. But it is nice to have another Mosasaurus. I like that they have recolored him so it looks like two separate members of the species rather than exactly the same one, kind of like they do with the T-Rex, even though most of the T-Rex's Mattel release is supposed to be the same one. They all look pretty different because of the colour scheme, so it's nice to have done that with the Mosasaurus. I always like building species up like this. It'd be good if they released a larger one, because in the movie the Mosasaurus is actually pretty big. They'd probably have to release one the same kind of size as the Apatosaurus they released earlier this year to have it a movie accurate size, whereas these are actually more accurate to kind of the real life size of Mosasaurus if you compare it to the T-Rex toys that Mattel have released. Thanks again for watching everybody, and I'll hopefully see you again soon.